So you can breathe big amounts in through your mouth, but unless you've got the carbon dioxide, it can't actually get into the blood, and then it can't get into the cell. When we breathe out through our mouth, we lose too much carbon dioxide. So breathing in and out through the nose is essential to be able to pick up that oxygen.
Meet Barbara O'Neill. She is a well-known Australian health educator and naturopath. Throughout her career, she has focused on sharing knowledge about nutrition, natural therapies, and the body's ability to heal itself through lifestyle changes and natural interventions. In today's episode, Barbara O'Neill addresses the dangers of mouth breathing. Breathing through the mouth, while it may seem harmless, will actually lead to a number of health issues. O'Neill emphasizes that nasal breathing is the body's natural and most efficient method for taking in oxygen. The nose filters, humidifies, and warms the air before it reaches the lungs, while the mouth lacks these protective functions. Over time, this can result in fatigue, reduced cognitive function, and even cardiovascular problems.
Going to begin our journey of looking at the basic conditions required for healing, and I have written them all up at the top of the board, and we will be going through them one by one and looking at why these are the true remedies. In the little book, The Ministry of Healing, I've quoted it a couple of times this week. On page 127, the author says, these are the true healers, and they are. They're the foundation. Yes, cayenne pepper can do wonders, as we looked at last night. It can bring blood to the feet when there's cold feet. It can help in a heart attack, but these are the true healers. Cayenne pepper will not have a great effect if this foundation isn't set in place. So the first one we're going to look at is pure air. This is often underestimated, and we have our own personal air conditioner. Did you know that? Our own personal air conditioner, our own personal air purifier, our own personal system, and that is called nose. And I want to introduce you to a verse, and I'm sure you know it well, and you may not have looked at it in this way before. It's Genesis 2 verse 7. The Bible says that God formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed into his nostrils. Where did God breathe? Nostrils. Nose purifies the air, it warms the air, it humidifies the air. It balances the blood gases, and it also pressurizes the air so it's perfect for the lungs. And many people think that when they're exercising, they really have to breathe through the mouth. And when you're at the top of one of these hills, you do feel like you need more air. So you breathe in through your mouth, but you actually don't get more air. And we have looked at this, and we'll look at it again, and that is our cell. And the glucose goes in, it goes through a 20-step pathway, and the 20-step pathway gives us 2 units of energy. The end result of the 20-step pathway is a chemical form of glucose called pyruvate, and pyruvate, as the chemical form of glucose, gets fed into, often called the powerhouse of the cell, called the powerhouse of the cell because this 8-step pathway delivers to us a very impressive 36 units of energy. The difference is oxygen. This is the pathway that uses oxygen. This is the pathway that does not use oxygen. And so when we want more energy, where do we want where are we going to get the energy from? We're going to get it from our cell. And yes, we need great amounts of oxygen to get down to there. But there are ways to get the oxygen, and there are ways that people think they're getting it, but they actually aren't. So we're going to go to the lungs, and we're going to draw one lung, and the trachea splits, each comes down into the lungs, and then it looks like the branches of a tree, and they're little bronchioles, and at the end of the little bronchioles looks like a little bunch of grapes, and they're alveoli. Let me magnify and show you. It really looks like a bunch of grapes, this one. That's the alveoli, and it's at the end of every bronchiole, and it is estimated we have about 500 million of those. And that's where the gaseous exchange takes place. There's a little capillary network over every capillary. So when we breathe in, those little alveoli fill up with the air that we're breathing. And there are, we looked at this earlier in the week, there are 25 trillion red blood cells. And on those 25 trillion red blood cells, on one red blood cell, there's 270 million hemoglobin. Now the hemoglobin is the carrier of oxygen. And each hemoglobin has 4 docking sites for oxygen. And so when we breathe in and the oxygen's coming, the oxygen can only be picked up if there's carbon dioxide. So if we've got 4 molecules of carbon dioxide on those 4 docking sites on the hemoglobin, then 4 molecules of oxygen can be breathed in.
What Barbara O'Neill is explaining here is how our body uses oxygen. Hemoglobin, which is found in our blood, is like a delivery truck that picks up oxygen and takes it to different parts of our body. Each hemoglobin molecule has 4 docking sites, or spots where oxygen can attach. But here's the key part. Oxygen can only be picked up by hemoglobin when there's enough carbon dioxide present. Think of carbon dioxide like a key that unlocks the docking sites for oxygen. If the hemoglobin has 4 spots for oxygen and there are 4 carbon dioxide molecules attached, it makes it easier for the oxygen to bind and be carried throughout the body. So while we often think of carbon dioxide as just a waste product, it's actually really important for helping our bodies use oxygen efficiently. Without the right amount of carbon dioxide, our cells wouldn't get the oxygen they need as easily. This is why proper breathing through the nose is so essential. It helps maintain the right balance of oxygen and carbon dioxide in our bodies.
When we breathe out through our mouth, we lose too much carbon dioxide. So breathing in and out through the nose is essential to be able to pick up that oxygen. Let's now go to the cell. Now we come to the cell, and it's a similar process. There must be 4 molecules of carbon dioxide to be able to get 4 molecules of oxygen into the cell. And that explains why they found that in exercise, the muscles that are being used are burning more or giving off more energy. That's because they're making more carbon dioxide. And because they're making more carbon dioxide, more oxygen can go into the cell. So you can breathe big amounts in through your mouth, but unless you've got the carbon dioxide, it can't actually get into the blood, and then it can't get into the cell. And if you breathe in and out through your mouth, yes, you'll get more oxygen, but it can't get into the cell, especially if you're breathing out the carbon dioxide. But nose balances blood gases. What are the blood gases? So the blood gases, number 1, are oxygen. And how the body balances the oxygen uptake in the blood and in the cell is number 2, carbon dioxide. It is true that you can have too much carbon dioxide, but it is also true that you may not have enough carbon dioxide. Another blood gas that's balanced when you nose breathe is nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is released when we breathe through our nose from our sinuses. If you breathe in and out through your mouth, no nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is only released when we nose breathe, in and out through the nose. Something else to note is that carbon dioxide and nitric oxide are vasodilators. Means open blood vessels. So when you're breathing in and out through your nose, allowing the body to balance adequate amounts of carbon dioxide, nitric oxide, your blood vessels open and you get a better delivery of blood all through the body. So vasodilators are carbon dioxide and nitric oxide. Something else very interesting, bronchodilator. What's a bronchodilator? See, dilator means open. Bronchodilator is something that opens the bronchioles, which is very important when someone has chest, particularly asthma. And a powerful bronchodilator is actually carbon dioxide. So someone's having an asthma attack, you know what the best thing they can do is hold their breath. Will they feel like doing that? No. And only nose breathing. Something else amazing about nitric oxide is it's antibacterial. As we go through this series, it's an antibacterial agent. As we go through this, you will discover that everything we need, we've got. We've got it. It's all inside of us. We just need to know how to access it. And the way to exercise these amazing agents is nose breathing. Just the very simple fact of nose breathing. So why do people breathe through their mouth? Because their noses are all blocked up. So why are the nostrils blocked up? One of the reasons why the nostrils are blocked up is because of mucus, excess mucus. So then the question is asked, why is there excess mucus in the eustachian tubes? It's usually because of an allergen. Whenever you're breathing in or has something in the body that your body has an allergy reaction to, it'll create mucus. Mucus is what the body uses to protect the lining of the eustachian tubes. So that could be breathing in something of an irritating nature, which could be chemicals. It could be breathing in mold. Mold has an irritating nature and the body reacts by creating the excess mucus. Or it could be foods. And the most common allergen foods, the 5 common allergens are dairy, wheat, and we'll look at this a little bit more detail later. The wheat was hybridized, so it's a different wheat to what God made. Oats, peanuts. Peanuts are commonly contaminated with mold. And sugar, the refined sugar, it is such a high acid and so sweet that it just feeds any problem in the body.
The key point she makes is that our body often creates mucus as a response to allergens, things that trigger an allergic reaction. Common allergens she mentions include foods like dairy, wheat, oats, peanuts, and refined sugar. These foods can cause inflammation or reactions in some people, leading to mucus production. For example, refined sugar is very acidic and can make any existing problems in the body worse, while peanuts are often contaminated with mold, which the body finds irritating. To put it simply, when our bodies sense something harmful or irritating, like certain chemicals or allergens, they try to protect us by creating mucus. And that's why we often feel stuffy or congested when exposed to allergens or after consuming certain foods. It's a way for our body to protect sensitive areas from further irritation.
But what we find when these foods are stopped, it can take at least 2 months before the eustachian tubes. But we have been talking a little bit about tinnitus and problems in the eustachian tubes, sinus, there's a wonderful herb. It's called golden seal, and its nickname is king of tonics to all mucous membranes. And sniffing in just a little bit of that powder can help clear out the eustachian tubes. Because if someone has had sinus problems for 20 to 30 years, even though they stop these foods, and it certainly is a little bit clearer, there also needs to come in something like the golden seal to help really clean out that area. It's one thing to stop the cause, then it's another thing to actually clean up the effect of having this problem for so many years. I'll tell you about a study that was done on some poor old monkeys, but this is probably not near as bad as some of the things they've done to monkeys. This researcher plugged up their noses for 6 months. And he plugged up their noses so that forced them to only breathe through their mouths. Their whole face structure changed, the jaw dropped down, and believe it or not, they were all snoring and blood pressure, if monkeys can have blood pressures rising, all sorts of problems. And what they found is because they weren't breathing through their noses, the little canals at the back of the nose started to shrink and even grow a little skin over them. After 6 months, they unplugged the noses and they taped the mouth up. So now the monkeys had to breathe through their nose. Within 1 week, the whole face structure changed. And also, yes, the skin was broken because the air started to go through the little tunnels at the back of the nose, but they got bigger and bigger and bigger. A very good illustration: if you don't use it, you will lose it. So when people are struggling with nose breathing, I say to them, you'll get better at it. Eliminate these foods, keep those eustachian tubes clear, because those little canals at the back of your nose will get bigger. Deviated septums, here's hope. What is it? It's nose breathing. Something else that I found fascinating was that when you breathe high chest through the mouth, it stimulates your sympathetic nervous system. Your sympathetic nervous system is your fight and flight, anxious nervous system. Whereas if you close mouth, breathe through the nose, and I call it God's LSD, long, slow, deep, with your abdominal muscles, you stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, and your parasympathetic nervous system is your peaceful, calming nervous system. So if you ever come across someone having a panic attack, touch them. Do you know it's important to touch? Touch them, and that says it's all right, it's all right. And then speak calmly and say, now just close your mouth. Don't say, shut your mouth. Please close your mouth. Now breathe deeply, long, slow and deep. And you can turn a panic attack around quite quickly. Now there is a way to help yourself become a nose breather, and that's tape up your mouth. Now you don't have to tape it up like this, and the idea is you just put a little bit of tape under the nose to the chin, and you do that for 1 hour a day for a week, and then you can sleep with it overnight. Yes, snoring and sleep apnea would almost be a thing of the past if these simple things were done. There is a famous professor named Professor Buteyko. I don't know if you've heard of the Buteyko method of breathing. He has passed now. He's a Russian professor. But he discovered that if he got his patients to breathe slowly and deeply through their nose, they could control asthma attacks. And the reason this is so is breathing slowly and deeply, even 5 seconds in, hold for 3, 5 seconds out, 10 times. Just that is enough to get those carbon dioxide levels up, and when that carbon dioxide level rises, we now have bronchodilator effect, opening of the bronchioles. So simple. And yet Dilantin, which they usually give asthma patients, it reduces lung capacity. It does not cure. But these simple things of eliminating these foods, clearing the eustachian tubes, and then just changing the way that you breathe can have a dramatic effect. All because of nose breathing. You may find it very hard at first to exercise and only nose breathe, but I've got some good news. You'll get better at it. I do it now, and even this morning when I ran up, my 30 seconds run up the hill, my body wants me to go, ah, but I know I'm not going to get any more air into my cell, which is what is going to give me the energy.
So, what can we take away from Barbara O'Neill's talk on breathing? Nose breathing has major health benefits. Not only does your nose filter, warm, and humidify the air, but it also releases nitric oxide, a natural compound that opens up blood vessels and fights bacteria, helping your body function better overall. Lastly, if you struggle with snoring, sleep apnea, or even asthma, switching to nose breathing could make a big difference. It calms your nervous system and promotes better sleep and relaxation. So in short, breathing through your nose is the way to go for better health and well-being. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to click the video on the screen to keep watching more content that will help you live a healthier life.